And we are live.
Hello, hello,
How's
hello.
how is everybody doing tonight? Got Jacob Carter. He's in the chat. Doubled up on the square body today.
Yeah. How did you get one in there at 2:13? Can you leave comments on the in the live chat before the? Huh?
I
I
think
didn't know
so.
that.
Yeah.
Obviously, because he left one almost 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. So we're just gonna chat for a little bit. Of course, we don't really have a topic. We're just gonna hang out and chat.
sounds good
And
to me.
with Travis from Perpetual Project. Look at that. I got it right. First go round.
Yeah, me too. Only because the bookshelf is. I put it. It's
You
over
gotta
there.
remember. Yeah.
Oh,
So what's been going on in Travis's or the Perpetual Project world since last week?
last week seems like it was so long ago. Oh, an update that something we talked about. My
There's
tubes that I
Ryan.
put in my my mower.
Okay.
Hello, Ryan. Uh, I put them in the day of the lives last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Mowed with it on Tuesday. Went out there Wednesday morning, and one of the front tires was flat again. And I'm like, maybe I missed something when I put the tube in. So I, thinking about you, I went and bought a
Oh.
gallon of slime, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll just take it out, and I guess I wasted whatever $15, whatever it was, on the two tubes. Well, I took the tire off. The tube was split all the way around in a seam, so I sent it back to Amazon and got my money back.
Oh,
But
okay.
I had a pair of them, and I don't know. I used about a quart in each of the front ones, and I didn't check today. That was yesterday. I didn't check, but they lasted long enough to mow. So
That's good.
hopefully, the rear tubes are doing good. That they were the right ones with the offset valve stem and the metal valve stem with the nuts on it. So they're a
Yeah.
little nicer tubes. So if they go bad, then I guess I'll fill them up with slime too.
Yeah. Now sometimes, I mean, the only issue I've ever had with slime is if I had one of my mower tires on an old mower was it had a gash in it. Oh, probably about inch and a half, 2 inches long,
Yeah.
and I mean it was just a cut in the sidewall, kind of right in the middle of the sidewall. As long as I kept, put the slime in there, it was fine. But if I parked the mower with that cut, above the slime level,
Oh.
it was a big enough gash that sometimes it would leak out, and be flat, and then sometimes it would stay up for, a month and part,
Huh.
even with the cut up high. It never got enough of that stuff in there because it's got those little particles and fibers and stuff to kind of get in there. But sometimes I guess, you know,
Yeah.
but it worked really great for
So
a long time.
talking about a slash, when I first moved down here, the first mower I bought a riding mower, and the first day I was running it, I hit a tree limb and sliced open the side of the tire on my brand new mower. So I stacked 5 plugs along that cut, and it lasted until I sold that mower because the engine blew up, and the tire never leaked down.
Wow. On my rock crawler, had 39 and a half, a 16 and a half inch wide uh, pit bull rockstar, a rocker, something like that on them. And I cut the sidewall from, it was about a 4 inch gash, but is, what do you want to call that? From the rim to the tread,
Yeah.
but about a 4 inch gash right in the middle, which, you know, I limped it back to the trailer on the flat tire. And once I got home, I pulled it off, and I got some small wire, kind of like piano wire or something like that, and drilled holes. I kind of grooved out the the cut, cleaned it out with the carbide burr on my side grinder, and I put like a whole package, like 5 or 6 of the uh, tire plugs,
Uh-huh.
laid them in there, and I took that wire and I stitched that hole up with the wire, and I put it back on the rim, and I put about a gallon of slime in it, and laid it on its side with the gas down, and filled it up with air. That thing actually held more. I think it's still holding air after like 3 years of just sitting.
Wow.
And I wheeled with it for probably several more trips after that, and then it's just been kind of sitting around. I've played around, and it's still holding air. I never would have guessed it. I always planned on putting a tube in that tire, but
yeah, that's what I had to do on the Fury. It was a front tire on extra parts when we were first working on it, and I ran over a nail, come pulling it into the garage, and put a hole right in the sidewall. And I put a plug in it, but the plug never. It would work for a while, and then it wouldn't work for a while. And I was never gonna I never drove it. It wasn't on the front of the red truck. It wasn't gonna be on the front of the red truck anyway. And I never really drove on it, so I just threw it in the tire pile. Well, then I needed some tires for the back of the Fury. I'm like, that's a perfect tire for the back of the Fury. It's got a ton of tread. Just has a hole in the sidewall. So, and it was not a big hole, just a small, like a 16 penny nail. So it's got a tube in it.
Yeah.
And it's been holding air ever since I put it on there. So I guess it's fixed. I don't know if it blows out, it's on the back anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, when we were at Sykeston for No Name Nationals, the Turtle, or golf cart, I had a plug in the right front tire, and I'd had it in there for quite a while. And at No Name Nationals, we were actually, I think Ryan was on the back, and going to take some just kind of B-roll of us. We were going to run down to the end of the track where the burnout pit was, and then come back down the return road and stuff. And we just get onto the return road, and it was the return road sticky enough. It pulled that plug out of the tire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so who was it? It was Redbeard was right there. And there's like green. I had slime in the tire also. So as we're going, I heard a psh, 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 and Mr. Squarebody's like, something's squirting out, and there's like green splat with every revolution of the tire, green spots on the return road. And we pull off, and I think I had some more plugs with me, or I can't remember. No, I didn't have any more plugs with me. Redbeard just brought over his little portable air compressor, like a Milwaukee cordless one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was Ryan's fault. It's always Ryan's fault. You get around Ryan, your stuff's gonna break. Just ask Duddy.
Yeah.
No, that's all a bunch of horse hockey. But then the rest of the night,
bad luck following us during No Name Nationals.
Yeah, it didn't have anything to do with Ryan. It was just there.
Yeah, it was just a cloud over those 4 or 5 pit spots there.
The middle of the pit. So, but yeah, he aired it back up, and it stayed aired up the rest of the trip.
Nice.
I don't know. They had that slime in there.
When I was trucking, I carried so at the Kenworth dealership in Pueblo there, they sold blackjack tire plugs, and I don't know if you've ever seen those. But
are they the ones that's kind of like got a disc and a? No,
they look like a regular tire plug, like the cheap ones you buy. But the impressive part to me is the tools that they come with. Like it comes with I want to say it's like pot metal, like it's a metal handle that is big. It's got solid. I mean, you can really like get a plug put in well with them. Like they're not all flimsy like the little Walmart ones. Anyway, I carried those in the truck with me, and I want to say that the plug kit was actually approved for tire repair, like for permanent repair. But several times I'd blow or I would have a flat tire on the truck, and I'd put a plug in it, and I'd wear a tire out with a plug in it, and
Yeah.
not have to go pay $75 or $100 or whatever they charge to dismount a truck tire and put a patch on it, and then half the time the patches don't stick. Or
Yeah.
if they look at it and it's got some of the, like, if you find a mom and pop tire shop, it's not too bad, but some of the bigger tire shops, if they can find anything wrong with
Oh
the
yeah.
tire, like any little thing wrong with the tire, they won't even try to patch it. They'll just tell you have to buy a new $700
Yep.
tire on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Richard said he has a lot in every vehicle. I try to carry him in all my trucks. That way, I've always got him. Cause yeah, and I've done like Travis said. And not the real good tire patches or plugs, just the cheap ones from Walmart or O'Reilly's or whatever. Actually, run them till the tire's done.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to, the plug will start leaking again. You have to put another plug in it. But I've actually just worn out a set of tires with the plug in it. Two Hacks is here. What's going on?
How's it going?
Got pretty good group in the chat tonight.
Yeah.
We're just hanging out. Me and I've got Tex. Big Tex is at my feet.
Yeah.
He's turned out to be like almost a perfect shop dog. Never would have thought it, that I was hoping he would be, but yeah, he just comes out to the shop with me and just hangs out. Sometimes he's kind of in the way because he just wants to be right next to me.
Yeah, he'll grow out of that a little bit as he gets
well,
older.
I've got the 339. A lot of you be happy that there's actually something going on with it. But last night I was messing around with the degree wheel, and so I was just sitting in a chair playing around with it, and he was literally in between my feet almost the whole time unless I had to get up. And then he'd get up and follow me around, whatever I was doing. Then when I sat back down, he'd flop right down right between my feet again. So
Nice.
it's okay, but I just thinking that's not a real good thing because he's going to be probably over 200 pounds when he gets to,
Better
I
to
guess
be
it's
under
better
your
than him
feet
trying.
that weight than in your lap.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'd rather him do that than try to be a lap dog at that weight. Cause I've made that mistake before with mastiffs, or when they're puppies. I want to hold them. Like, oh, they'll grow out of it. They won't want to be on your lap all the time. No, they remember.
They get used to it.
Yep, and they don't realize they're bigger than you, and they still want to be in your lap. I think I'm not sure if I showed you the picture of, but I've got a picture of one of my mastiffs I had. He's like 180-pound Cane Corso Italian Mastiff, just a monster. And he was on my lap in my chair in the house, and like hanging down. He was just, he didn't fit, but he was trying. I mean, his head was, I know it's kind of hard to see on camera, but his head was every bit of like 8 to 10 inches wide.
Oh wow!
He's a big dog, and this guy's going to get probably bigger. But he's doing good. He just hangs out. Doesn't really get into a whole lot. He's been helping me clean shop because he'll find pieces of trash that's kind of slid underneath the bench or shop towels that have gotten left out somewhere. He's been dragging stuff out to the middle of the shop, and then I have to pick it up and throw it away. So he's helping me clean.
There you go. He's doing his part.
Yep.
But yeah, other than, I'm trying to think what else I've done this week. Oh, I worked on one of the carburetors for the extra parts.
Yeah, one of them is you're going to the tunnel ram line.
Yeah, I realized that I ordered half of the wrong parts to rebuild the carburetor, so I reordered a bunch of stuff. That's a good question. Jamie Hicks asks, how much does it cost to feed a 200-pound dog?
Well, on all the Mastiffs I've had in the past, once they get to about 2 to 3 years old, they really don't eat as much as you think for that big of a dog. Uh, at one time, I had the two Mastiffs, and combined weight was probably a little over 300 pounds. And it may sound like a lot to some people that may have a little wiener dog or something like that, but I think a 50-pound bag of dog food will last them a week and a half, sometimes longer, because, I mean, they don't burn a lot of energy because they're lazy.
I think we feed our dogs, both of them together, a 35-pound bag every 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, see, Ryan knows the story. He's got two big Great Danes, and yeah, about 50 pounds every couple of weeks. That's about right. And it still sounds like a lot, but the dogs I had, I tried to get the expensive food for them, and they wouldn't even hardly eat it.
No.
About the only stuff they really ate was the 20. Well, back then it was $20 for a 50-pound bag of Old Roy at Walmart. That's about all they would eat.
Hey, you should have some of that kicking around the shop somewhere. You got in a box from Speedmaster.
Yeah. No, I left that with FedEx because I thought they needed it to give it to the customer that actually bought the dog food that didn't get their dog food, but they weren't concerned about it. So no. I don't know. Hey, Red, he's got a color for his 82 square body, the Corvette Bronze. Oh, that'd be nice. That's the closest thing color Squeaky would have originally been. The what do they call it? Metallic, russet metallic, but it's kind of a bronze color.
Oh wow! Is that the
ugly truck experience has popped in? Going on, guys? Oh, maybe yeah. Order some more cylinder heads. No, I'll go elsewhere.
That's expensive dog food. You will go broke trying to feed them that dog food.
Yeah, that bag of dog food costs more than what I paid for the dog. Oh wow, Red Eye just had a litter of pit bull and Staffordshire Terriers. That'd be some pretty dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, russet metallic. And I really like that color. It's not just a brown. It's not super flashy, but it's got a nice, especially in the sunlight.
Is that
real pretty color?
That's kind of on the back corner of the cab there that you can see. That's still kind of.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah. The interior. When I pulled the carpet out, the floors, what's left of them. I mean, they're not real bad in this truck, but you can really see what color originally was. It's real pretty.
Nice.
It'll probably never be all that color again, but.
So Richard and I were talking about that the other day, and so the problem with painting is once you make them pretty, you don't ever want to scratch them or drive them or.
Yep.
So like when Richard built the first race car that he built, circle track car he built from scratch. I mean, it was beautiful. It was a gorgeous car. They TIG welded everything, and the chassis was powder coated, and I mean it was. But he never wanted. He was really upset every time it got crashed, which was basically every night, because everything it was beautiful. It had a beautiful paint job. It had a hood with hand airbrushed flames on the hood, or like real fire on. It was a beautiful car, but he couldn't hardly race it because he was afraid to scratch it. And then, like, if you're always changing stuff. Well, anything on the chassis, he never wanted to change anything because he had to cut his powder coat off and then put ugly MIG welds on it. and rattle can it back. So he never wanted to change anything on the chassis. So the theme of the day for the 56 is being useful, not pretty. And
Yep.
that's kind of my theme with everything. If it's not shiny, I don't have to worry about it getting scratched.
That's kind of my life motto: be useful, not pretty.
Yeah.
Words to live by.
There you go. If it's shiny, you won't want to get it dirty or scratch it. But if it's ugly, who cares?
Yep. That's like our Ram. I give it a nice, good bath and detailed it all up before we went on our trip to Texas. And before the first tank of fuel was out, we had a big old bug splatter right, and it always happens right where I have to look.
Yes, always.
And
like aim or something.
Yeah, and then bugs everywhere, and like, oh well. But it was clean to start out with. The interior stayed clean.
Yeah, and I had that 2015 Challenger, and it was way too nice for me. I was so afraid to scratch it. I owned it for a year and didn't even put 1,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, I didn't feel near as bad about driving the wheels off my 2016 Ram I traded it in for. And it wasn't the cost, because I paid more for the Ram than I did the Challenger. I for whatever reason, I don't know. It just, in my head, the Challenger was too nice to drive and tear up, and the truck was a work truck, or partially a work truck. It got used as a work truck. I don't know. It's something in my head, some disconnect or something. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I have a hard time actually making anything pretty because I won't want to use it. One of these days.
Yeah, Richard's got a really nice street rod that only comes out in the sunshine.
Yeah. That's kind of the way this truck is. Like, I've been wanting to drive it to work, because it's warm enough, because I don't have a heater. It's like, well, I'm going to drive it to work. And I'm pulling up my apps. It's like, well, there's a chance of rain during the day. I mean, a little bit of rain ain't going to hurt him any, but, why take the chance? It's like, oh, well.
What if you turn the scoop around backwards? Will that keep it from getting water on the carburetor?
I don't think it matter either way. And I mean, as far as driving, I'm not too worried about it, or even just sitting there, because I don't think it get enough water in to hurt it unless there's like a major downpour. But
yeah,
it's just, I don't like the water sitting on the engine and electronics and stuff. And
yeah,
I have a hard enough time with electronics, it seems. I've got a couple bad ignition boxes laying around here, but one of them was actually caused by one of my kids. We hooked the battery up. It was in my rock crawler. We hooked the battery up, or he hooked the battery up, and I turned the key on, and we started letting smoke out of electronicals, and I didn't want to let all the smoke out. Then I realized, he had the battery hooked up backwards.
Oh.
And switched it back around, and then no more fire. And then realized the ignition box fried.
Ouch.
Yeah, and I took it apart, and there's some pieces burned up in it. And it's an older Mallory box, and I called them. Of course, Mallory, I think they're trying to phase Mallory pretty much out of the picture.
Yeah.
And I hate that, because they've got, that's what I'm running, and they've got some good products for, guys at my level that want to play and have a little extra, because the ignition box I got in there now, that two-step box, is great. It's digital. You just got little dials to turn to change RPM limits. There's no pills, there's no plugs. The rev limiter is really smooth. And I think, well, I got I need to look to see if they got any more, because I want to. Last I looked, they had them on clearance.
Oh.
Because I had the one that was in there that burned up when we were on the chassis dyno or the hub dyno. I got it all boxed up and called them and got a number and everything and sent it off. But I looked on their website through all their clearance stuff on Holly, and they had brand new ones for like $140. I'm like, I'm just going to buy a brand new one and not worry about sending this one off yet.
Yeah.
And then the next time I looked on there, I think they're like $120.
Oh, wow.
I don't think it's because they're a bad product. They just don't promote Mallory anymore. And they probably don't sell very good because and I even tried to find, I think it's rotors for this Comp 9000 Unilight distributor.
Yeah.
And I'm having a hard time finding rotors for it. So I think they're trying to phase out the Mallory stuff. But
that's crazy.
oh wow, the starter turned backwards, reverse polarity.
Huh. That's wild.
Never heard of that. Yeah, this one wouldn't do anything. It just started smoking.
So I want to say, I think, and I could be wrong here, but I want to say that I've heard that, like the Detroit, the 671, 471, 871 motors, the two-stroke motors, if you put them under enough load, they can stall and start back up backwards, and they'll run backwards and run the exhaust out the breathers.
Yeah.
I've never seen it happen, but I've heard my dad's told me stories about it happening to different stuff back in the day. That would be wild to see it running the
yeah,
exhaust
they're
out the breathers.
Yeah, they're an injected
Yeah.
two-stroke. So yeah, they're not trying like a typical two-stroke. They're not pulling the air fuel through the crankcase. It's injected, so it could run pretty much either way. Probably not as good backwards.
Probably
but
not.
But you have what, 10, 13 speeds going backwards?
I'm not sure if they tried to drive it that way, but I suppose you could. That would be an interesting experiment if you just had a one of those that you didn't care about and you just wanted to play around with it, figure out how to turn it over backwards and get it to run, and see if you could drive it in backwards, I guess. Like
there you go. There's your viral video.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
But you got to do it with the trailer on.
Yeah, oh yeah, loaded too.
Yeah.
I will. If I ever come across one of those, I probably won't, but I'll try to remember that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it now that I'm gonna remember it, but it won't happen. So, what have you been up to this week?
Just working and trying to fiddle around with the 339. What day was it? Friday. Spent all day out in the shop working on it and made quite a bit of headway. I've got I made 3 videos that day on it. I got one coming out tomorrow afternoon or evening at 6:30. Then another one on Friday coming out. Working on this thing. I'm trying to just go through step by step, and then last night I spent some time I degreed the cam in, checking that out, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna leave it where it's at. 'Cause I've never built a purpose-built nitrous engine, and when it comes to the cam timing, if this is just naturally I sprayed. I wasn't gonna do anything else with it. I would leave it the way it is, but now I'm kind of second guessing myself because I retarded the cam. Well, I retarded the cam 4 degrees from the way it's ground, but on the degree wheel, it's actually advanced 1 degree from straight up. Because
The way it's installed now at 4 degrees retarded.
Do what?
The way it's installed now at 4 degrees retarded, it actually degrees out at one degree advanced.
Yes, because it had 5 degrees ground in, 5 degrees advanced ground into the cam.
Okay.
So, in most of your companies, cam companies, or I know Comp usually is like, most are off-the-shelf cams are like 4 degrees. For some reason, the Summit one was 5 degrees. Yeah, but the reason, because this engine is going to be more higher RPM, and retarding your camshaft it tilts your power curve to the higher end.
Yeah.
Part of me wanted to leave it advanced and maybe advance it another couple degrees to help build a little bit of bottom end. But that's actually where I'm at right now. I'm trying to figure out which way I want to go because I want to have a nice streetable engine that's going to be run on nitrous. I know it's going to survive on nitrous either way I go, but I also want to run really good on nitrous and run. So if I advance the cam back to where it was, or maybe a couple extra degrees to tilt the power curve towards the lower end,
I'll be more fun on the street without the nitrous.
Yeah, I will have less up top, but I'm running nitrous. I can make up whatever I need to on the top end with nitrous. So, and I've done a little research on like the typical, I guess, recipe or typical way people build nitrous engines, and as far as the cam timing, and I need to redo it because it's been a while since I researched it. But I'm wanting to say that they actually tend to like to run them a little bit advanced because of the way the nitrous. And I'm not going to explain it very well, but I think it's because the way it helps. It opens up the exhaust valve sooner, obviously, because it's advanced, and gives it more time for the exhaust to evacuate. But I don't know. So if anybody on here is familiar with the nitrous engines or has any input on that, I am all ears. Like I said, if this is my normal build, I would be building without nitrous. I would, and just for playing, I would retard the cam, leave it where it's at right now. It's not retarded from where it was, but it's actually advanced 1 degree from straight up because my gear only goes in 2 degree increments. So it's either 2, 4, 6, or 8.
So I went the opposite way with the 440. When I built it, I just put it in straight up with it was a Engine Tech timing double roller timing set, I think is what I had on there.
Mm-hmm.
And with that timing set, I never even degreed it the first time I put it together, but I went back and degreed it later. And when I was having problems with it, where it felt like it was a dog on the top end, but I think it actually is my vent on my fuel cell wasn't allowing air into the fuel cell, and I think it was starving for fuel on the top end.
Oh.
But while I had it out, and I was troubleshooting a whole bunch of different problems, the lifters collapsing, the fuel cell problem. While I had that all going on, I degreed the cam or checked the cam at that point, and it was straight up. It wasn't adjustable or anything. It was installed 3 degrees retarded. And I thought, well, that'll help the top end out. Anyway, well, then I found all the other problems, but by that time, the motor was already back in the truck. And so while we had it out this time, I decided to go ahead and buy an adjustable timing set. And I put it in on the 4 degrees advanced one because I have 0, 4 advanced or 4 retarded on my cheap timing set I bought.
Yeah.
And it actually went in and degreed 6 degrees advanced. So from where it was at to where it is now, I actually advanced the cam 9 degrees from where it was. And I did recheck piston to valve clearance. It's still good.
Yeah.
Because I was a little concerned about that. And I don't know how it runs because it's still on the engine stand, but that's
Yeah.
I decided to. I'm never going to spin that 440 more than 62, 6,300 RPMs anyway. It doesn't have the heads for it. So I decided that advancing the cam would be better, and I like 6 degrees better than 2 degrees, so that's what I'm going with.
All right. First responder garage says check with bad attitude C10. Okay. I'll check into that. And another thing with this is every engine, every application is different. Now, there are some, kind of standards of what it's going to do. About every engine, if you retard the cam, it's going to be higher, more power towards the upper end of the RPM curve. If you advance it, it's going to give you more bottom end to mid-range. That's typical, but every engine is a little bit different. It depends on your compression ratio and all that stuff. I checked the dynamic, I've done a dynamic rate or pressure ratio calculator on it to see how much cranking pressure I was losing or how bad it affected dynamic compression. And it was, I think the way it is at 1 degree advanced, it's 7.9, something like that, to 1. And it is a lower compression. It's probably I haven't completely done the static compression ratio yet. I haven't CC'd the pistons and cylinders because I've got those released on the block.
Oh.
So that's taking away from it. But I'm guessing it's probably going to be around 9 to 1. And that's fine because I want a perfectly streetable engine that I'm not going to have to worry about overheating, or I could probably run 87 octane in it if I wanted to, but I never do in any of them. But it's just not real sure. Well, then with the cam degreed in as ground, it only gained like it went up to like 8.1 to 1 compression or dynamic compression ratio. And if you're not familiar, those of you out there listening, the dynamic compression ratio is the actual compression ratio of as the exhaust valve or the intake valve closes and the piston's coming up. Because when the intake valve is still open, your piston's already on its way up and your intake valve is still open. And then it closes. Once it closes, because I think with all the specs in there, I had my effective stroke length for the dynamic compression. When the intake valve closes, the top dead center was like 8.2, 6 point. No. Wait a minute. I'm getting all the numbers wrong. 3.2, like 3 1/4 inch stroke, something like that.
Oh, well, so you lost quite a bit.
Yeah.
But dynamic compression ratio takes into all kinds of other factors that you wouldn't think about, like rod length and cam timing, and I guess that's really the two big ones.
And that was with the cam where it's at right now at 1 degree advanced. When it's at 5 degrees advanced, I had like a 3.3 inch effective stroke. That's when the intake valve closes and we're actually compressing the air at that point. Until then, you're just still pumping air in.
Yeah. So first responder says corrected compression. Dynamic is the engine actually running. Just his 2 cents, but people say dynamic, but think about it. And I understand what he's saying because there's velocity and momentum and everything else that comes into effect when the engine's actually running.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is something you could really dig deep into. But the reason I say dynamic is because when I typed in Google dynamic compression ratio calculator, it came up as dynamic compression ratio calculator.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
understand.
care. I'm not getting upset or anything like that. I'm just stating the facts, Mister. That was the name of the calculator I used. But I
So
do understand what you're saying. It's because, like Travis was saying, engine speed, all that stuff,
cylinder head
and
flow.
cylinder head flow,
I mean,
all of that is goes into effect on your cam timing, your dynamic compression ratio, all that stuff. Because uh, I rewatched one of the Motor Trend Engine Masters videos about cam timing, advancing and retarding.
yep,
And what they had on the dyno was Steve Dulcich's Motorhome 440.
yep.
I don't remember the specs of the cam. It was a thumper comp cam stumper cam, and not all thumper cams are bad. I do want to put that out there. It depends on what you're going to do with it. But anyways, he had it degreed in because it had really low compression. It was still stock compression. The pistons were still, what are they, like 100 thousandths in the hole?
Mine on
On
my
the
440 are depending on. I didn't. I'm not checking it with the proper tools. I'm using a pair of calipers and trying to guess, but somewhere between 75 and 90 thousandths down in the hole, and it's basically stock replacement pistons. So yeah, they're way down in the hole.
Yeah. So on this test, it's a low compression, uh, not huge cubic inch, but a larger cubic inch engine, uh, and stock cylinder heads. I think they had. I don't know if he done anything to the cylinder heads, and probably performer RPM or performer air gap intake on it. So it wasn't super special, and it made, I can't remember what it was, 380 something with the cam advanced that far.
Yeah,
At 7 degrees from straight up. So, he was kind of let out. He's want to have at least 400 horsepower. Well, and that's all. One thing about that show is sometimes they lose sight of the other end of the curve. They just want that maximum number,
yeah.
and sometimes they kind of leave out. If you overlay the curves, what's really going on through the whole,
Well,
the whole thing.
the other
But
problem with dyno racing is you're also only looking at wide open throttle. You're
yeah,
not looking at
yeah,
anything part throttle or so. But
yeah,
the point is,
yeah. The test they done that, and it made really good torque. I mean, it was a great engine to put in something to fry the tires. Uh, Actually, make some decent passes down the drag strip. That's what you want to do, and cruise it on 87 octane all day long. So it was a great one. And if you got the rings right, hit it with a little nitrous.
yeah,
So what they did is what they do? I think they advanced the cam even more. Just I think they went to 10 degrees total, and yeah, say it lost even more on the top end and gained a little bit more on the bottom end. And then they went back to, I can't remember for sure. I want to say they actually went, I think they said they went from the starting point, which is 7 degrees advanced, back to zero. I think they took 7 degrees out, so they basically straight up.
yeah,
And it made 392 horsepower peak at a higher RPM, and the torque and horsepower was up on the high end, but it dropped off on the low side. So it was typical of about every dyno scenario I've seen with that test. But they're trying to figure out, why it, kind of putting in some science into it, and it goes back to what you were saying or we were talking about. It's not just the actual numbers and calculations and measurements, it's airflow.
Yep.
With that camshaft retarded, the hopefully I get this all right. I get to talking and my mind gets all jumbled up. But as the piston's coming up, it takes longer. It has to wait for that intake valve to close. So even though your dynamic or corrected compression ratio is less, it's still, the way the engine works is that air's coming in, and even though the piston's still coming up, that air is still kind of shoving in because it's just going to keep flowing until something stops it.
Especially at higher RPM.
Yeah, at higher RPM, that air is moving into the cylinder so fast as the piston's coming down. As it starts coming back up, it's still almost, in a way, putting a little pressure in there. It's got to. And then it's got a little extra air fuel in there once the intake valve does close because it's had a little bit longer to fill it. So that's kind of the science behind that.
And then
we've lost.
What's that?
I was gonna say, I look at the view count, and we've lost everybody but 3 people. Oh, there's the 4th one. I don't even know how accurate that is. It doesn't matter.
So that's, and then first responders talking about cylinder rim effect and low flow of the exhaust and all that. But one of the things that he is big on, and I'm going to do a test on it just to see, is measuring the cranking compression to kind of get an idea where you're at. Because I was shocked. I measured the cranking compression ratio on the 318 stock 86 7.5 to 1 318 in my Fury, and it was around 100. I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but it was around 150. There was a couple cylinders that were low, but around 150. My built 440 in extra parts had 125 dead up, exactly 125 in every single cylinder. So that, and we were talking about this at one point. It might have been at No Name, how having the cam retarded like that and having that low cranking compression is why it sounds, it's lazy, it's hard to start, it's not real crisp. I think that's part of the problem with I already know it's got too much cam for the heads and too much cam for the compression ratio, and I think I just made that worse by retarding the cam when I didn't do it intentionally, but it was made worse by the cam being retarded when it was put in. So hopefully by advancing the cam, I can get some of that performance back.
I'm going to answer a couple of these. That riding my concho, that was fun. It actually hooked up on the street, and that was a ride. I wasn't expecting it to hook that hard. I figured he'd have to get out of it because it'd be all over. It was doing the old G-body shuffle and kind of, I don't know if you could tell in the video, but it was scooting around a little bit. But me being pinned back in the seat like that, I don't know if it's actually me smiling. Yeah, I was smiling, but I think it just had my face like, it was pulling hard.
So Richard,
okay. And Jacob, I can't wait to hear it either.
I don't think he's the only one.
125. You could run the 440 on 67 octane.
So I've been running it on 90 octane because that's what the no ethanol is.
Yeah. Nitrous adds torque, and nitrous cams and more high RPM.
So I think what he's saying is nitrous adds torque, but nitrous cams add more RPM, more higher RPM power, but not torque.
Well, and that's, I'm not real sure on that because I haven't watched a whole lot of actual dyno runs and stuff and data on, nitrous purpose-built engines. So, but I know this cam that's in this engine, the reason why I kind of stuck with it, and I kind of, I got lucky when I got it because I just find the biggest cheap cam off Summit that had the chop. to put in that 305. That I wouldn't have to do any work to the cylinder head. It wasn't the optimum, but it has 114 degrees lobe separation angle, so it's got a less overlap, and that's what you want, less overlap for a nitrous or a boosted application, because you don't have that pressure loss in between the intake open and the exhaust closing. So that actually adds a little bit of bottom end or mid range.
I'm trying to remember what the lobe separation angle is on that cam I've got. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's 111 degrees.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And that it's such a fancy cam that it didn't even come with that as one of the boxes on the cam card. I had to actually figure it out myself.
Yeah, that's the same way this Summit cam was. I had to do the math on that, and so yeah, it's 114 degrees. See, it's 234, 244 duration at 50. And it's coming in right around 5. I've got it wrote down. It's too lazy to get up and go get it. I think it's like 510, 512 lift on the intake, and 530. No, it's 523 on the intake. I remember that now. And 537, I think, on the exhaust. So, and I put the 1/6 ratio rockers on it, so to help with that. With the lift.
So I have on the 440, it's got I don't remember. I want to say it's like 240-ish on intake and exhaust, and it's 531 and 551 with 1.5 rockers, and it's got 1.6 rockers on the exhaust. And that may be wrong, but that's where I put them. It's got it has 1.6 rockers all the way across. I don't remember if they're split or not. No, they're not. They're 1.6 all the way across. So it's got 1.6 rockers, and I want to say it's like 551. Maybe it's 551, 581 with the 1.6 rockers. I don't remember exactly. It's the bottom of the page cam for that 440 and that line of cams, and it was I didn't order it for that build. I ordered it a long time ago. I think I ordered it based on a build that I saw a dyno sheet on the internet, and I ordered it probably 20 years ago just because.
Yeah.
And then I never built the motor. And when I was looking for parts to put that motor together, I found that cam. And I'm like, oh, we'll use this one.
Yeah. Well, that's how the big block that's in Squeaky right now got the cam it has in it, because I had it sitting on the shelf like 3 years waiting to put it in Buddy, which I've got a story to tell about Buddy. And I think I've told you before about the cam timing in Buddy 454. We go over that in the After Hours Live, because we're going to be switching over in about 5 or 6 minutes to the After Hours Live. And Quality Control has been gracious enough to stay on top of it and put the link down there, so everybody hit that link to go over to the After Hours Live. And let's see. Richard says the 150 shot, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Well, everybody talks horsepower, and that's the easy number to talk about. But you can't make horsepower without torque.
Yes.
And that was one of the cool things to see on this truck when I had it on the hub dyno is when we decided we were going to do the nitro shot. I had 150 shot is what that kit, the jets I had in it were supposed to make if everything's right. And it pretty much made 146 horsepower. So it was really close. The kit and everything was, that was set up right. But I can't remember how much more torque it made than NA, but it It made the horsepower was up to like 460, but the torque is 634, I think.
Yeah, that's
And
a
yeah,
lot.
and that was instant torque. As soon as that nitrous hit, the line on that torque curve went. And the same thing with the horsepower, but that torque shot way up and just kind of stayed there. It was, and you could definitely feel it in the truck.
Yeah, the way that truck moves when the nitrous hit on the hub dyno when it wasn't actually moving, but it was moving, it looks
Yes,
violent.
yeah. There's things moving and shaking in there. That's why if anybody remembers that video, the look on my face, yeah,
Yeah,
there's a little look of concern because I almost lifted, but thought, no, we're just gonna stay in it. Why do rods stretch and not collapse? Because the force of the piston stopping and the rod trying to pull it back down is greater than the force of the explosion or the compression part of it. Now I have seen on tractors or diesels, ether babies, the rods collapse, or maybe not it's rods or the pistons. Everything starts collapsing because they start hitting them with ether, and the rods will start collapsing. In high boosted engines, I guess gas engines will do the same thing too. But
well, I'm
more
pretty sure
likely,
nitro engines make the rods shorter every
yeah,
pass, like
it depends.
top fuel stuff.
But most generally on a naturally aspirated thing, you're going to stretch a rod before you compress it.
Yeah. So, just real quick, I looked it up. 242, 253 at 50 is the duration on that cam, and
Okay.
521, 551 with 1.5 rockers, and it's got 1.6s on it. So
Yeah.
it's way too big for a 9.5 to 1 440 with stock heads.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it is, but
It's fun.
you can still make it work. And
Yeah.
I've made a lot of low compression engines work really, really well because just didn't have the money for the extra pistons or bigger pistons. They just put what I had in there and made it work. But yeah, anybody's got any last minute comments or anything on this live? Which, if you do, we can carry it on over to the next live, and I'll open up the video or the live to where if anybody wants to come in and hang out live. Let's say
Overlap. Overlap is 98 degrees. That's on the cam card.
Oh. Yeah, I forget. See, mine doesn't even have the overlap on it, and I figured it out last night, but I don't remember what it was. Well, the overlap, what was it? At 50, and I may have figured it wrong. It's like 11 degrees of overlap.
Yeah, this doesn't specify if it's at 50 or not. It just says overlaps 98 degrees, and then that's like I said, a 112 lobe or 111 lobe separation angle.
Yeah, I would say that's like at advertised, or like at 2 or 5 thousandths lift, something like that.
I'm sure.
I've done some research on how they figure advertised duration and all that stuff, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff to read on cam spec.
Everybody figures it different. That's why nobody compares it.
Exactly. I could go somewhere else with that comment, but we'll keep it plain for now.
Talking about duration on camshaft.
Yes. So, all right, we've got just a few seconds. We're going to end this one off. I appreciate everybody watching.
Yeah, thanks.
Don't forget to go like, share, and subscribe to this guy over here if you're not already, and like, share, subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Yeah. Yeah. And next week we'll be on his channel, live and in person, same time, kind of same, different place. But anyway, go check that out. Right now, we will be back in about 5 minutes on the After Hours Live. Go check out the link. I'll put it up there real quick. Everybody click on that, copy it, and then you can paste it, whatever. So we'll see you over there.
See you guys in a minute.